Welcome back to another Medtech Snapshot, the one question, one answer, 4-minute podcast. I'm excited to have with me today Rodney Brenneman. Rodney's background is he's played a role in the Orange County medical device scene, operating as an executive. And today we're going to be getting into an interesting topic, which is, Rodney, I'd love to get your advice on, what would you share with executives who are perhaps a little earlier in their career on how can they effectively lead an early stage medical device startup company, in particular, one that is preclinical?
Travis, I think the advice I would give to earlier stage med device executives, teams, but especially CEOs, are kind of three different areas. The first is kind of understanding what you're in for when you get into this environment. You've got to be highly adaptable. I mean, there's change almost on a daily basis. You really need to be able to change and be willing to adapt to things that are going to change in the business environment, from your board, from your investors, from your employees, constantly. A willingness to listen and learn. You're going to not know a lot of what you're going to need to know to succeed ultimately, and you got to be open to that and understand you don't know what you don't know in a lot of cases. It just takes experience. You've got to have a lot of drive and sense of urgency yourself. There's just no inertia in startups. You have to create it. And hopefully you've got, a lot of emotional intelligence. And if not, finding a coach, someone to help mentor you is extremely helpful. It benefited me throughout the years. A second area is your team. They're going to be your critical support and perhaps as important and more important than you. How strong of a team you are able to put together. Again, in as much as you can collect people who also have good emotional intelligence, adaptability, they're going to have to be nimble. You're going to suddenly have some crisis come up, and they're going to have to be able to shift over, cover for their teammate while they go off and handle some crisis with a vendor or a clinical event or whatever it is. So you really need people with that. There's just no room for drama in the office when you have small teams. Any discord between the team is just amplified, tenfold. So that's why I keep mentioning this emotional intelligence is very, very important to your team and positive dynamics. A toxic person can just drag down the organization. There's really no place to hide somebody who's not a particularly cooperative player.
Here.
Yeah. And a third area I guess I would mention is just sort of perspective. When you get into young companies like this, it's hard. You get your head down, you're trying to solve some technical problem, and that's great, but you got to have perspective. And I guess the main thing I learned over the years was you really have to look at the end when you start at the beginning. You got to understand these companies. How am I going to be able to exit this? You're going to get money from people, investors, and you got to know how you're going to eventually achieve the objectives that you're going after at the beginning, and put together a strategy. It really puts that all together. And again, having mentors, people who can guide you into how to do that, terribly important. Things like regulatory reimbursement, those matter, and they're oftentimes going to influence your design, because you've got to have a device that you can get approved through FDA and you can ultimately find somebody to pay for. So those are critical, all bunch of pieces of the puzzle you have to pull together.